Hi, guys. I am so excited to welcome a very special guest to Choose Happiness today. Kristin Massotto, educator, reading specialist, mother, wife, sister, aunt, friend, actress and singer. And what's amazing to me is that you do all of those things 100% at all times. How is that possible? How are you?
Great. How are you, Rach? How do I do that all 100%? You exaggerate. That's how I do it 100% all the time. But I sure do give it the old college try.
Well, as an educator, it's been a very difficult past few months. It has been for all of us, but I would say especially for those of you in the teaching profession. How have you made the choice to stay positive and optimistic during this ridiculous time?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I agree with you. I think that just the isolation of it all has really been taxing for a lot of people. You know, the more people I talk to, even now with the ability to get out a little bit, folks are still, you know, highlighting that constant up and down feeling. Like, you know, you're up one minute, you're down the next. And I think what maybe added to that for educators was the idea that no one really gets into education to teach from behind a screen. You know, we get into education, most especially those of us who are elementary educators, to interact with children. You know, when you go for an interview, when you are an elementary educator, the first thing that somebody who's prepping you for that interview will say, don't say you got into this because you love children. You know, it's such a cliche answer. But we love children. I mean, when you are an elementary educator in particular, children call you mommy all day long. You know, they'll be like, Mom, I mean, Mrs. Massotto. So that was particularly challenging, and I think really kind of weighed on people. Initially, you know, friends would be doing Zooms, or I had done a couple of Zooms with classes, and I would hang up, I'd sign off, you know, all smiles, and then I'd cry. So one of the things I feel that works for me, something that I've been doing, is sort of putting my mind to a task. So right now I'm thinking about, how do I make distance learning better? How do I make it more engaging? How do I make it so that, you know, children feel connected to me in some way? Certainly back in the spring, I did videos all the time. I was doing read alouds. I'd stop and I'd talk to the screen. You know, I'd hold the book and be like, do you see that? And I'd, you know, kind of wait and be like, oh, yeah, right, exactly. So for me, I'm very task oriented. And by doing things, I can envision, like, what is the joy it will bring to people? And that brings me happiness. And so I think that that's been particularly fruitful for me. I don't know what the timber is amongst community and teachers in your neck of the woods right now, but here, somehow we've gone from heroes to zeros very quickly. And so in a time when people are really trying to wear us down, knowing that I'm doing my job, I'm preparing, it lifts me up. So that's been super helpful for me.
Wow, that is such good advice, especially because I think we can get mired down in all the negativity and all of the unknownness.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You're focused on something that you know is going to make something better, or at least you can say, I'm doing my best to try to make the situation better. That can make all the difference.
Yeah, and that, it's the unknowingness, I think, that is kind of taken over people's emotions in this case, right? Very difficult to put your cognition first when you can never have solid background. I was just saying this to my family. Social media it's an interesting thing, right? If there wasn't constant information on a daily basis, the public would be saying, they're lying to us, they're hiding something for us, they're not telling us everything. Well, now, so the reverse is true. Now they tell you every day. But because this is called a novel coronavirus for a reason, we don't really know about it. You know, 6 months does not a whole lot of research make. Now you know too much all the time, and things are going to be ever changing. So that makes it really difficult, I think, for folks to put their cognition ahead of their emotion. So everything is right here at the tips of people's nerve endings. And
right.
So
wow.
for me, to combat that, I have to be doing something that, as you say, makes me say, well, maybe this will make something better.
Mm-hmm.
And from a school perspective, that's something I know how to do.
Right.
With what you know.
I think a lot of us are so paralyzed these days, as in, like, with all the other issues, I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. And this kind of thing, well, if I know my wheelhouse, I can do something in that, and that's enough.
That's right.
That's so great. So how do you encourage those cutie students of yours to stay positive, especially now?
I miss those little faces so much. It's very funny. There's so much conversation about going back and wanting them to get back into school, to have normalcy. And one of my big concerns is that it's not going to look anything like what they're used to school looking like. And again, I think that's true for all grade levels, but particularly true at an elementary level, because we really are those substitute parents. And I know that I'm going to miss like little hugs, but we'll get over that. I think I applied the same to my students as I do to myself. So one of the ways I combated that distance and they're not being with their friends and so forth in the spring is I got really creative with my lessons, things that I couldn't possibly do in a classroom, just, space-wise, supply-wise. So I was doing lessons where, they had to get outside, or they had to, one of the lessons I did was I gave them the recipe. I recited a poem about bubbles. I gave them a recipe for bubbles, get outside and blow bubbles. I did a fairy tale week, and one of the follow-up STEAM activities was to build a castle. Take whatever you want, but build a castle. And, they had some criteria. And I have to say, the parents, too, were fantastic, because there was a student sticks out in my mind who was quarantining at the beach. So they went out onto the beach, and she built a phenomenal sandcastle and like had her little Barbie mermaid sticking in it. And it, to me, it just like kept the spirits high. I also think that, oftentimes we talk about the ills of social media. I just said social media pointed out a deficit of social media, too much information too soon. One of the ways I think that I was able to keep the children and their families too, because this was so tough on parents, make no mistake, incredibly challenging for parents, and parents who were teachers, like doubly challenging. We, as a district, we do a lot of social media outreach. A lot of classroom teachers have pages or Twitter feeds. So I have an Instagram page, and I would post pictures of all of these great products that I was getting from children and families. And to me, there's nothing like looking at great work from great minds. Children just blow me away. One of the things that is a joy for me as an educator is to watch children think. So, when I would get an email back from a family with a picture and an explanation like, oh my God, he loved this, and it just took off with the ideas, and what do you see? It was thrilling for me. And I think that over the distance learning time, my followers went up so much on my Media Center Instagram page, because people were really enjoying seeing the children at work. That I know we're at a distance, but look at what they're doing. And then finally, what I asked one of my our kindergarten group to do before we broke for summer is we have a virtual media page for our district, for our school. And I asked the families of the kindergarten students if you would take pictures for me of what summer means to your child. So who sent me pictures of their children in a little backyard pool, or running through sprinklers, or having water pistol fights, or eating a snow cone. And I put those up on our virtual media page, because I think that it gives hope. And hope, to me, that's like the big umbrella, like peace and hope. If you have hope, all things are possible. So I don't know if you've seen the Michael Jordan, The Last Dance documentary, and he says that in the end, right? It all starts with hope. So.
Right. Oh, I love that. That's really kind of a precious commodity these days. I think people are really hopeless.
Yes.
Like we were saying, with everything being unknown, and with you just get more bad news every day. So I'd imagine getting on an Instagram page and seeing somebody building a sandcastle. I mean, what's better than that? That's
looking at an ice cream cone. Ice cream solves all the problems in the world.
Here, here. Right? Well, and also that connection, because you're keeping the kids connected with you, the parents connected with you, and then everybody connected with each other. And we're all so starved for that connection right now. That's really a nice way of using social media for good. And not just for the sake of scrolling. It's intentional what you're doing.
Right, right.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah, I can't call that a Kristin original idea. Our district actually had spent a considerable amount of time looking at it, sort of a movement in education, because, certainly for as many people who support education, my principal always says, some people think we walk on water and some people think we can't even swim. And I think I think that's true in a lot of professions. But in this way, we're sort of getting out the good news.
Wow. Oh, I love that. And I would like to be in your classroom. Can I audit Mrs. Massotto's?
Anytime. It's very funny. One of my cousins and some of my husband's colleagues had young children at home. And again, they're educators themselves. So they were trying to balance teaching their class of children and dealing with their own children. So I was kind of farming out Kristin Massotto read alouds to places and be like, let them listen to this.
What a wonderful public service you were doing.
Yes, I do try.
Well, aside from all of this, we've all experienced roadblocks and setbacks as we journey through life. And can you think of some things that you've done yourself that have helped you, again, keep looking forward with hope and positivity, even when it felt like there was none to be had?
I think I'm the luckiest girl in the world, because for me, that comes down to your relationships in your life, right? Mm-hmm. Those moments where you're stuck, that's when you look to your people. And if you're lucky enough to have the people in your life that I have in my life, you get unstuck with relative ease. I have a husband who's a super logical thinker. So if I'm look forward to continuing to rage like a lunatic so you can talk me off the wall. He has this ability to just take me from here to here. I have a group of college girlfriends who, may not be my biological sisters, but are my sisters of the heart. I happen to have a brother who is like a model of perseverance and grit. I work with two young ladies, my former co-teacher, Deanne. Her family teases her about this, but it has worked to my extreme benefit. She's always digging for the pony, right? There could be a real big pile of what, and she's, and that, to me, that's an inspiration. Catherine was, Deanne and I were lucky enough to have Catherine as our student teacher. I guess it's 2 years ago now. The girl just, was constant like happiness and joy. And to me, what was very telling about that is we had asked the children, the year that we had her as a student teacher, we asked the children, what do you think will make Miss Cawley a successful teacher? To tell her, what do you think will make you a successful teacher? And they all said her positive attitude. So that, I think, gets me unstuck, knowing that I have these folks. My good friend Lisa Conti, who
yes.
She always says, so if we were all called into a room and they said, okay, everybody take all of your stuff, everything that's weighing you down, everything that has you stuck, take your stuff, put it in the middle of the room, you'd always ask to leave with your own stuff. So nothing in your life is insurmountable, right? You may feel that way for a bit of time. And I certainly don't mean to diminish anybody's trials and tribulations, because I also subscribe to the fact that whatever you're feeling is yours. And so, yes, we can say, well, this one has it worse and this one has it worse, so I should just be grateful. I don't think that we can do that all the time, but I do think that we can make a conscious decision to choose happy, right? To move beyond what is dragging us down. And in my life, I do that by, I have the best friends, I have the best family, and I lean on them. So I think that has always unstuck me.
Right. So
I often say, what would Rachel do?
Oh.
I do indeed. What would Rachel do?
Wow. Good night, everyone. That's lovely. Thank you so much. So having that kind of support system is so vital. And if someone doesn't have that support, I think it's important to encourage them to reach out to somebody who may not be a good friend yet, or someone who they were thinking about reaching out to, and have the courage to do that.
Yeah, I think that's particularly pertinent with regard to what's going on with education right now. So many people, again, really, and rightly so, concerned, upset with regard to, what if I have to go back to my brick and mortar office, or even if I'm teaching at home, how do I deal with my children and their educational needs right now? And I get it. I really do. I have colleagues who are facing the same dilemma, but I think this is the time where we have to say, hey, neighbor, I need a hand. You want to, switch on and off. How can we help each other? And unfortunately, from a society's perspective, I think that my daughter wrote this one time, and it sticks with me all the time. We're more connected, yet further apart than we ever have been before, because we're all, on that phone, and we're not having these conversations. And, certainly not our children's generation. I imagine it's different for some, but a lot of them, they don't know the fine details about each other's lives that, I knew about my friends, every little thing there was to know, because we talked and we talked. So this is a time, I think, where we have to kind of move beyond the screen and say, hey, neighbor, how can we give each other a hand here? Because these are different times. We can't do business as usual.
Exactly. And I don't understand where somehow it became asking for help as a sign of weakness. To me, it's an act of strength.
100%. 100%. Listen, I get it. It's not comfortable. It's not an easy conversation. And again, from a society perspective, I think that, advertising in and of itself, right, for a long time now, has tried to make us these perfect people, perfect looking, perfect lives. So, nobody goes on Facebook and is like, look at how terrible my family is. So we have this perception as people's reality. So they perceive everyone's doing better than me. But guess what? I'm drowning. So I call uncle. Here's my white flag. Who wants to help me? Who wants to talk to me today? I'm feeling a little crazy. So I think you have to be willing to say that. I think if people start to have those conversations, or I can't tell you how many times, like even with my girlfriends in a text thread, one or the other of us would say, I'm so glad to hear you say that. I thought I was going out of my mind. So just say it, because somebody else is feeling it and thinking it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You would think that this would bring us all together, because we're all in the same boat. We all don't know what's going on. We all can't go out. We all, et cetera, et cetera. We're all worried. Right. And it's become so polarizing. And I just keep hoping that it will just, hopefully bring us together and make us all feel like, okay, I can ask this person for help. They can ask me for help. And maybe that'll be a silver lining that comes out of all this at the end. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Fingers crossed.
So if you could share, what are some tools people can have in their proverbial toolbox to help them make the choice to stay happy and positive now and all the time?
It's funny. I don't know if you've noticed, but language is a really powerful tool, in my opinion. I like to talk. I just do. Always have, always will. But I've always had a deep respect for words. I think they are incredibly powerful. I try to impress that upon my students all the time. Think about what you're saying, because your words are, it seems, I think that people don't give enough credence to language, because it seems too simple to be meaningful, right? So for me, language is a really important thing. And I have collected quotes since I'm a very young child. There's whether this is a story I made up in my mind, but I'm pretty sure somebody told me this. My grandfather's mother, so it would be my great-grandmother, loved poetry. She would collect quotes. My mother said she would always quote Confucius. And it is funny to me, my who has just celebrated her 85th birthday, I think, always says to me how much I remind her of her mother, though we never met. So I think we share that love of words. I use quotations in my teaching all the time. So language is something that I turn to. Quotes I rely on when I'm frustrated, when I'm angry, when I'm feeling down. And I thought I would pull this out. Do you remember this little box?
Yes!
So I dip into this box all the time for those of you, now y'all are going to know why I say, what would Rachel do? At a particularly difficult time in my life, Rachel sent me this box. And in this box are all little notes, little inspirational thoughts and ideas. I also put, at the same time I was going through this, I got this fortune. And it says, an adventure awaits that will change your life. And so, I keep language close by, things that help me dig myself out of a hole. I highly recommend this book. Bad glare, can't say it. There you go.
There we go.
It's called Gift from the Sea. It's by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. This book was published originally in 1955. And then she reapplied for the copyright in 1983. But it's a book that I used to read cover to cover every summer. And now I sort of, I look through it for little things that I've underlined over the years. The most exhausting thing in life I have discovered is being insincere, little things like that. So it teaches a lot of really good lessons, and it has really endured time. So that's something I keep in my toolbox to lift me up. And then I'm going to just go to the phone, because I was thinking about the fact that there are two quotes I recently took screenshots of, because again, to me, they're the kind of thing when I'm having a tough time, I'm going to draw on them. One says, people don't determine their future. They determine their habits to determine their future. So I hope we're in the process of forming good habits. Wow. And then, because I'm always on some sort of diet, a friend of mine who posts a positive affirmation every day on Instagram and on Facebook, she posted the Elimination Diet. Remove anger, regret, resentment, guilt, blame, and worry. Then watch your health and life improve. And Charles F. Glassman, whoever that wise man may be, said that. But that's sort of my go-to toolkit, is people who have wiser words and thoughts than myself. And I, say them over and over. I keep them close at hand, because I really do value language.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is brilliant. You're brilliant.
No, brilliant. Like I said, I think it's so simple that it doesn't seem to be something that has value.
Right.
But it really does.
It really does. And you are brilliant. So before we let you go, here at Choose Happiness, we are focused on what we're looking forward to. Makes all the difference. So what are you looking forward to?
I am looking forward to some really smart people. I'm looking forward to some really smart people, some scientists coming up with something that will kind of dig us all out from underneath all of this, and give us all some confidence to go back out into the world. Despite the list of challenges it's going to present, I am looking forward to seeing my little friends in person. There's a long list of challenges. I could be on here with you for days and days at a clip talking about that. I am looking forward to that. And I think I'm most looking forward to hugs. I can't wait to be able to hug deeply and for a long time. In the words of our good friend Dorothy, I think I miss that most of all.
Oh,
I do. I really do.
Yeah, I do too. Here. Wow. Well, that is something great to look forward to. All of those things.
I'm giving you a virtual hug.
A virtual hug, yes. I cannot thank you enough for being here with us today. Thank you for all of your wisdom and your insights. We will have those quotes posted so people can draw on them, and the book as well. Thank you ever so. You're wonderful.
Be safe, my friend. Wonderful to see you.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.